Are you tired of having foot pain and you've tried uh, any kind of Dr. Google exercises online and they don't seem to be working for you, and you're just frustrated because the pain's still there? We can help. This is Dr. Dukes with Body in Motion, and this is my little model foot that we use with all of our patients. It's important to educate people so that they understand why they have what they have. There's a lot of causes for this. At the end of the day, we're going to be talking about plantar fasciitis and how we would treat it, but there are a lot of ways that people develop this. So at the nuts and bolts, the anatomy starts on the heel on the inside, the medial tubercle, and goes up into the toes. So it's like this web, like our hand. And so our feet actually function closer to our hands than we would think, but we wrap them in shoes and we lose some of that feeling, right? So that's the basics of the anatomy, but now let's go over how we would treat it and evaluate it. So Dr. Ehring's going to bring his foot over here for me to show you. So at first we want to see, ultimately, can that person extend the toe in an adequate way, and do the other toes move as well? And can they do that actively? So can he lift his toes up, splay them out? And then we kind of look to see, is the passive range and active range matching up? Do they have that wing last effect? If I move the big toe, do you see this area of the arch increase in tension, right? So that does have an effect on how the plantar fascia works. That's how we make our foot rigid at certain times and not rigid at other times in our gait cycle. Okay, so now that would be a rudimentary eval. There are muscles on both sides of the calf that control how the toes work. But as far as treatment goes, so we use a soft tissue tool, and we would be scraping the bottom of the foot and having them either move their toe. So sometimes we'll go both directions. Sometimes we'll use our hands and pin and stretch, or use a manual muscle relief therapy that way. We use a lot of muscle activation in the calf and the foot to activate the muscles of the foot so that we provide a stable base for that patient to walk out with. On top of that, we do use dynamic tape a lot to increase to slow down a movement that someone may not be able to control, but also spring them out of that so that their body's nervous system starts to learn the proper mechanics for their gait and when they load that foot. Because ultimately, we want to wake up all the small intrinsic foot muscles and get that person to be able to load and offload the foot correctly and not overuse a specific area. So here we're going over the exercises we would give someone with plantar fasciitis. So ultimately, we want to create an increased load on that dorsiflexion of the toes. We also want to make sure that they have the ability to use the big toe separate from the other four. But we do need to try to work on increasing that strength under load, right? So a couple exercises, we would actually use the toe pro here and have patients do flexion exercises into the foam, really working on the bottom of the foot, but also activating some of the upper ones. You can see my ankle is kind of bouncing around as I shift between the two. That's as I'm lifting my toes and pushing, okay? So that's a great way to build up some of the strength to the lower part of the bottom of the foot, and mostly the flexor tendons to the toes, right? Then if we were to increase that, we would then do a calf raise with a little bit of a toe flex and then lowering my foot down, right? So then if we added a balance dynamic, we would use the Mobo board. So with this, if you look at it, it doesn't have anywhere for my other four toes to grab. It's just my big toe, and that's the main muscle to helping us control our foot. And in the different things that we're going to drive it, we would challenge different directions of ankle dorsiflexion and load, all in a natural realm of the way that our foot would work when we load it running, walking, and all the other things. So these are just a couple of the rehab exercises we would give. There are more, but if this interests you, feel free to reach out and book an appointment online.